In 1967, the United States Air Force was at a crossroads. The dominant philosophy of the time, driven by the Cold War, was that faster and higher was always better. The skies were filling with sleek, supersonic interceptors and bombers, designed for a high-tech nuclear confrontation. But halfway around the world, in Southeast Asia, a low-tech, grinding war in the mud was proving this philosophy fatally flawed. America's most advanced jets, the F-4 Phantom and F-105 Thunderchief, were proving to be terrible tools for supporting troops on the ground. They were too fast to see the enemy, too fragile to withstand ground fire, and their time on target was measured in seconds. The most effective aircraft for the Close Air Support Mission, or CAS, was a prop-driven, piston-engine relic from a previous war, the A-1 Sky Raider. It could fly slow, carry a massive bomb load, and soak up incredible amounts of damage. This realization sparked a quiet but fierce debate within the Pentagon. A small, forward-thinking group championed a new, purpose-built aircraft. This AX, or Attack Experimental Program, called for a jet that was, by the standards of the day, a step backward. It had to be slow, simple, cheap, and above all, survivable. Two companies entered the fly-off, Northrop with its YA-9 and Fairchild Republic with its YA-10. Fairchild Republic had a special pedigree. It was the descendant of the company that built the P-47 Thunderbolt, the legendary Jug that had perfected the ground attack role over Europe. They understood the mission in their corporate DNA. Their YA-10 was an uncompromising, brutalist piece of engineering. It was designed to do one job and do it well. The footage you are about to see, captured inside the Fairchild facility in Farmingdale, New York, is the very genesis of this machine, filmed approximately 200 days before its first flight. Here we see the assembly of an aircraft built around three principles. The first is lethality. The centerpiece of the entire design is the General Electric GAU-8 Avenger cannon. It is a 7-barrel Gatling gun, 19 feet long, firing 30mm armor-piercing shells. The gun is so large and its recoil so immense, the entire aircraft was literally designed to accommodate it. In this footage you can see the massive weapon being integrated, a process that dictated the plane's final form. The front landing gear is offset to the right, a visible compromise because the gun's firing barrel sits on the absolute center line of the airframe. The second principle is survivability. We see the core of the pilot's protection, the 1,200-pound titanium bathtub. This armored shell would encase the pilot, designed to withstand direct hits from 23mm anti-aircraft cannons. We see the engines being mounted high on the rear fuselage, a brilliant design choice. This shields them from ground fire from below, and also places them in the shadow of the wings and tail, protecting them from heat-seeking missiles. The third principle is simplicity. The YA-10 was built for a rough life on the front lines. Its broad, straight wings provide immense lift for low-speed flight and allow it to operate from short, damaged, or unpaved airstrips. Many of its parts are interchangeable from left to right, including the main landing gear, the rudders, and the elevators. This dramatically simplifies field maintenance. What you are witnessing in this rare film, the marriage of the cannon to the airframe, the assembly of the unconventional wings, the careful placement of the high bypass engines, is not just the construction of an airplane. It is the birth of a legend. This is the story of the prototype that would soon be nicknamed the Warthog, an aircraft built for the infantryman, and one that would become the undisputed king of close air support for decades to come.
The Warthog is one of the most formidable airplanes in the history of aviation. Although this highly maneuverable airplane can carry a remarkable 16,000 pounds of mixed ordnance, it is the massive 30mm Avenger cannon which places the Warthog in a class of its own. The Avenger can fire 70 rounds a second and is the largest gun ever put into a fighter airplane, capable of killing tanks, trains, boats, or anything else that gets in its way. With an impressive mixture of agility, rugged toughness, and devastating firepower, the A-10 stands as one of the world's great planes. During the Gulf War, an aircraft previously unwanted became the most valuable member of the American arsenal, the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II.
More than the publicity, the weapon system was really vindicated because it was a proof of concept that people that were associated with the airframe knew that it could do the job, but not a lot of other people did, especially some of the senior Air Force leadership. And it was very rewarding to go out and kick butt.
We probably took a lot of heat from all our friends in the Air Force and Navy and other airplanes because it's slow, it's ugly. You know, they like to rib us about that, but the reason it was so successful in the Gulf War is that it's not really about looks or about speed, it's about firepower. And the A-10 can really deliver a lot of ordnance in a very precise manner.
The A-10 basically is a gun that they decided to make fly.
The rate of fire of our gun is around 3,900 rounds per minute, or about 50 to 70 rounds per second as the gun comes up to speed. That does not sound like a machine gun. That sounds like a very unhappy lion or tiger or beast of some sort, because it has a roaring sound.
When the time came to name this intimidating airplane, only one beast came to mind.
Now, obviously, when the A-10 follows a long line of distinguished hogs, someone had to come up with a hog-like name for this airplane, and looking at it, the obvious hog-like name for an airplane that's this ugly would be the Warthog.
I think its mission of ground attack brought on some of that. You know, it's down and dirty in the mud, like a warthog.
After its rousing success in the Gulf War, few remain unfamiliar with America's Warthog. During the war, Hog pilots flew 8,100 sorties, destroyed more than half of the Iraqi armor and artillery, assisted in search and rescue missions, hunted Scuds, and often operated in the darkness of night. The airplane's remarkable durability and the hard work of Air Force pilots and mechanics enable the Warthog to operate with a mission capability rate of an astonishing 96%. And in a tribute to its toughness, only 6 of the 144 Warthogs deployed to the Gulf were lost. In a sight becoming more common throughout the American military, a complementary mixture of full-time Air Force personnel and Air National Guardsmen combined to keep planes like the Warthog in a constant state of readiness.
Bob and I are both crew chiefs in the Maryland Air National Guard. Our unit's responsible for maintaining 17 A-10 aircraft. Bob's a full-time member of the Guard, and I'm a traditional Guardsman. But I'm not at the Guard on my one weekend a month. I'm a Baltimore City police officer. On a typical Saturday, we'll come in about 6:30 in the morning. I'll stay till about 6 o'clock at night. Usually we'll fly 10 airplanes to land again, send up 10 more. In the hangar right now, they have there's 4 airplanes in there. One they're using for load crew training. One, I believe they're doing some sort of flight control maintenance on. And the 2 in the far rear are both down for phase inspections.
This airplane right now is in the phase inspection, which is accomplished every 400 hours. Flying hours. It has come in for a major inspection. And during that inspection, they basically open the entire airplane up. And in doing that, they inspect front compartments. The gun gets inspection. The engines get inspected. The wings, the gears. You have special inspections that have to be done. TCCOs, and basically it gets an overall look at everything. Okay, part of the A-10 and phase inspection process is the armors. They've taken this gun out and inspected the gun bay, and now they are in the process of preparing to put the gun back in.
Our primary function is to remain combat ready. In other words, to train to the same level of proficiency as our active duty counterparts, such that if the level of tasking and the level of involvement of our Air Force reached the point where it couldn't be completely handled by our active duty units, then the Guard and Reserve is ready to fill in on very short notice.
Usually on a drill weekend, or a UTA we call it, we put together a scenario for the day, a mini war for a day, and we have intel. We coordinate with intel and all the different shops, and we go out and basically execute a war plan for one day.
With the recent downsizing of the active duty Air Force, units like the 175th Wing of the Maryland Air National Guard have become integral participants in any mission undertaken by the Air Force. About 25% of the 175th Wing are full-time employees of the Maryland Air National Guard. The remaining members, traditional guardsmen, leave their families and employers for training 1 weekend a month, and also to serve 15 days or more of active duty each year.
This is, of course, an Air National Guard unit made up of primarily prior service pilots that came out of active duty units and moved on to a civilian occupation. And in many cases, that civilian occupation was the airlines. And they fly 2 aircraft now. They have their civilian jobs with their civilian airlines, and they come in on weekends and some oftentimes during the week to fly this airplane.
Amongst the proud and select group who call themselves hog pilots, one stands alone. Lieutenant Colonel Ron Henry, who's been flying the airplane since its introduction into the Air Force, is the only hog pilot to have amassed more than 4,000 hours of flight time in the A-10. Nicknamed the Professor for his academic and meticulous approach to his job, Henry's invaluable experience and insight have helped countless younger pilots master their craft.
I was a volunteer for this assignment back in 1977. The airplane was brand new. Every airplane that enters the inventory has a certain mystique associated with it. And in 1977, the A-10 was introduced at Myrtle Beach Air Force Base, South Carolina, and the combination of Myrtle Beach Air Force Base and a brand new airframe made it the most desirable assignment in the United States Air Force in the late 70s. And there was no problem getting people to volunteer for this airplane. I can't understand why there ever would be. I have seen the airplane evolve over a period of 20 years. I started flying this airplane in 1977, and it's changed quite a bit. It was a very simple, austere airplane in its early days. It was designed that way, designed to cost very, very little. But the airplane has proved so survivable and so indestructible that the mission has evolved and the complexity of the airplane has increased over time. When we first started flying the airplane, we had basically 3 radios and a navigational receiver, and that's really all we had. We had no computers on board to help us guide the airplane or help us aim the weapons. And quite a bit of money has been spent on the airplane since its introduction to the fleet in terms of retrofitting the airplane. We now have a very capable air-to-ground computing system that helps us aim our weapons, helps us aim not only the 30-millimeter cannon, but also all the gravity weapons that fall off the bomb. Good enough to win the Air Force's biannual gunnery competition in 1991.
What I like most about the Guard is that we can just continue to fly as line pilots until we're 55 years old, an opportunity you usually don't have in the active duty. We enjoy flying, obviously, more than anything in our career, and that's why we joined the Guard.
Affection and enthusiasm for flying the Warthog makes the rigorous training seem less demanding than it is. Hog pilots can ill afford to be unprepared for the challenging missions the A-10 must perform, and keeping the unit ready is a full-time occupation.
We train continuously, not just on weekends. We run a flying operation here 4 to 5 days a week, and with the luxury of an airline schedule, many of our pilots can come in and fly several times a week if they wish, and we can maintain the same level of proficiency.
Many of these Maryland Guardsmen have twice left their families and full-time jobs to assist NATO forces in Bosnia. Despite the serious nature of their service, these hog pilots feel their affection for the warthog helps them keep things in perspective.
I think we're a little bit more casual and not as threatened about our ego per se, but it's a single-seat airplane, so you get to fly it by yourself. You don't have to talk to anybody else about what you're doing. We always fly in 2 or 4 aircraft, and we train routinely at low altitude, 500 feet, or you can go lower in certain areas. And that's, moving around at 300 knots, that's a lot of fun.
Flying the hog has got to be as fun as any fighter to fly. It's single seat. It's a VFR mission, which means you don't have to fly on predetermined routes. You can navigate with much more freedom, and it's just a great deal of fun.
I think it's the most enjoyable type of tactical flying I could ever hope to do.
In January 1973, the Fairchild Republic Corporation unveiled the airplane the Air Force and the Army desperately wanted, the A-10 Thunderbolt II. It was not a pretty sight, but it was exactly what the military needed. The conflict in Vietnam had painfully illustrated the need for a new aircraft to handle the difficult task of close air support, a role the A-10 was methodically designed to perform. This task is one of the most difficult in all of aviation. The Warthog must loiter around the battlefield while providing support for ground forces and destroying enemy tanks, vehicles, and artillery. And this job must be performed at low altitudes, under heavy enemy fire.
That's why this airplane is so ugly. This airplane is optimized to perform the close air support mission. It's designed to fly slower than most. Slower because it's necessary to keep the good guys and the bad guys in sight if you're going to deliver ordnance in close proximity to those good guys.
The A-10 evolved from lessons learned in Vietnam, but it was in reality designed to provide close air support in Europe. The A-10, with its tank-killing ability, stood as an integral part of NATO's strategy to match the threat of Soviet tanks, which stood poised to storm across Germany. 40 years earlier, the Germans had unleashed upon the world the power of close air support. By the summer of 1939, Germany's resurrection into a military power was complete. The Nazi regime combined a huge, highly mechanized army with a devastating fleet of 4,000 all-metal aircraft. Hitler's Air Force, the Luftwaffe, pushed the envelope of war into a terrifying new era. The strategy behind the design of the Luftwaffe was close air-to-ground support, a strategy unveiled with terrifying precision during the Nazis' invasion of Poland. In a pattern destined to be repeated throughout Europe, the Luftwaffe soared ahead of Hitler's highly mechanized army and pounded enemy troops, artillery, and aircraft. Within 10 months, Europe had collapsed into the iron fist of the Nazis, a testament to the brutal effectiveness of their military machine. In the wake of the German victories and the emerging threat from Japan, American airplane manufacturers began designing and manufacturing airplanes at an extraordinary rate. Of all the American fighters from World War II, one simply stands alone: Republic's P-47 Thunderbolt. More than 15,600 P-47s were manufactured, more than any other Allied fighter from World War II. Nicknamed the Jug, the Thunderbolt was the largest of all the Allied single-engine fighters and weighed an astonishing 8 tons. Armed with 850 caliber machine guns, the Thunderbolt presented a formidable force. Driven by a 13-foot propeller and a 2,300 horsepower Pratt & Whitney engine, the P-47 was the fastest U.S. fighter and could reach speeds of 428 miles per hour. With a range of more than 1,000 miles and a cruising speed of 350 miles per hour, the P-47 starred throughout the war as an invaluable escort for bombers and as an integral support airplane for Allied ground forces. Along with planes like the North American P-51 Mustang, the P-47 provided vital Allied support for the Normandy invasion, repelling German troops and weaponry which defended the shores of France. Coordination of troop movements in sync with aerial support was crucial to the success of the Normandy invasion. On D-Day alone, more than 14,000 sorties were flown by the Allies in preparation and support of the initial invasion. The Allies learned the lesson of close air support quickly, and the legendary P-47 Thunderbolt helped bring the Allies victory in Europe and in the Pacific. After World War II, and in the wake of the tremendous success of the original Thunderbolt, the Republic Corporation began developing the lineage of jet airplanes which led to the Warthog. Republic's first F-84 Thunderjets were straight-wing jet airplanes which were armed with 6.50 caliber machine guns, had a range of nearly 1,500 miles, and a maximum speed of 620 miles per hour. The first prototype flew in early 1946. These F-84s were the original Hogs, nicknamed as such because on hot days, the airplane would often struggle to get off the ground and would sometimes tip over, leaving their stout noses rooted in the mud. Thus, the first Hog was born. All told, more than 3,300 of the original Hogs were built, serving throughout the 1950s and into the 60s. Republic continually upgraded the Hog, and in 1952, they produced a swept-wing version, known as the F-84F Thunderstreak. The legacy of the Hogs continued when pilots christened the Super Hog. The Super Hog, capable of a speed of 685 miles per hour and a range of 1,650 miles, soon developed into an integral member of the U.S. Air Force. It could carry a variety of rockets and bombs, and Republic built more than 2,700 Super Hogs. The F-105 Thunder Chief, introduced in 1956, demonstrated that Republic was not going to rest easy after the success of the F-84, and it did not take long for the F-105 to be given a Hog name of its own.
As the F-105 was introduced, the previous F-84 pilots who transitioned into the F-105 looked at their very sophisticated Cadillac airplane and thought of it as the Ultra Hog, and the 105 became known as the Ultra Hog.
Capable of speeds in excess of 1,200 miles per hour and a range of 2,000 miles, the Ultra Hog demonstrated the rapid evolution of the jet from an imperfect machine to a sleek vehicle with power, range, and firepower. Designed as a high-speed interceptor, this large fighter bomber was armed with a GE M61 Vulcan 20mm gun and could carry Sidewinder missiles. The Ultra Hog could also carry nuclear warheads in its bomb bay, and ultimately, nearly 900 F-105s were built. The final Hog in Republic's proud lineage evolved from the American experience in Vietnam. The war fought against a desperate and determined people in a climate brutally hostile to man and machine, pushed both to their limits. In the battlefields of the harsh, humid jungle, troop support was a foremost concern for the American military. Helicopters quickly proved their merit in this role, and the Huey paved the way for armed close air support. Although helicopters retained a mobility advantage over the fixed-wing aircraft, the firepower and speed offered by airplanes such as the A-1 Skyraider led many to believe a new fixed-wing aircraft was needed to fill the role of close air support.
The A-1E Skyraider really illustrated a need for an aircraft that was maneuverable, close to the ground, close to the bad guys, where you could look out the window and see what you were attacking to differentiate between the friendlies and the bad guys in a very reliable manner.
Fairchild Republic delivered the first production model of the A-10A to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in October of 1975. The suggestion that the plane be called the Warthog in honor of Republic's hog lineage, and given the ugliness of the airplane, did not sit well with the brass of the Air Force. The plane was officially named the A-10 Thunderbolt II in honor of the legendary performance of the original Thunderbolt in World War II. But to its pilots, and ultimately to anyone familiar with it, this airplane has only one name.
But it's a very affectionate name. No Warthog pilot is ashamed to call his airplane a Warthog.
The A-10 basically is a gun that they decided to make fly. It's a 30-millimeter, 7-barrel Gatling gun, shoots at 4,200 rounds per minute, and they bolted wings, a fuel tank, a pilot, and some engines on it, and it goes out shooting at tanks and any other targets of opportunity. This is a 30-millimeter round. It's a training round. It's been polished as a presentation round. But this is the size of the actual round. Projectile is up here, and you can see 30 millimeters is the width, the diameter of the projectile. And as you can see, it's quite a large round. It weighs about 1.5 pounds per round. And our planes carry 1,150 rounds of this. Give you some idea how long the gun system is the gun barrels actually end here, and the gun barrels start about here. The gun rotor is in this area. The hydraulic drive mechanism, the two drive motors are here, and the ammunition drum starts about here and extends all the way back to here. As you can see, everything from forward of the wing is devoted almost entirely to the gun system. The pilot's floorboards are actually the mounting surfaces on some of the gun structure, and with the exception of the electronic controls and the battery, almost everything is the gun.
When the Air Force drew up the specifications for the plane, they wanted the capability to kill tanks. Early on in the design process, Fairchild Republic decided a 30-millimeter Gatling gun would be the ideal weapon of choice. But the sheer size of the 20-foot GE GAU 8A Avenger cannon presented a design problem for which there was only one solution: design the plane around the gun. The Avenger is a 7-barreled 30-millimeter cannon which delivers a frightening burst of destruction. The gun fires shells which are a foot long and weigh nearly 2 pounds. Fully loaded, the gun weighs 2 tons.
Well, the gun's a 30 millimeter. It's the largest gun, in an airplane. A fighter type airplane. There's some transports that carry bigger guns, but it's very precise.
Such precision allows hog pilots to hit targets up to 2 miles away, and with a muzzle velocity of 3,450 feet per second, the gun can fire an average of nearly 70 rounds per second. One shot can destroy a tank.
Projectile itself is exceedingly lethal in its anti-armor form, the armor-piercing incendiary. A very small slug of depleted uranium is actually what's delivered on target. And it strikes the target with almost 12 times the kinetic energy of its predecessor 20-millimeter round. Even though it's only 50% larger in linear dimension, it has 12 times the kinetic energy of a target.
The tremendous recoil force of the gun led to its positioning slightly offset to port, so that the firing barrel is exactly on the center line. This avoids the problem of asymmetric recoil forces.
It produces as much recoil as the engines produce in forward thrust. Theoretically, if you had the ammunition and could hold the trigger down long enough, the airplane would come to a complete stop because the gun would win the tug of war.
The 19,000 pounds of recoil forces dictate that the Avenger is usually fired only in short bursts of about 2 seconds, an exercise which also avoids ammunition wastage and barrel overheating. Despite its incredible power, the gun is by no means the only threat the Warthog poses to enemy forces.
The A-10 is an attack airplane. That's a euphemism for bomber. It does primarily drag bombs around the sky, although we tend to employ the gun whenever possible because the gun does give us the option of standing off from the target, sending ordnance a mile and a half downrange, and then actually departing the target area without having to overfly the target. However, the airplane can carry up to 16,000 pounds of releasable external stores. And that, I think you'll find if you check your history books, is about 4 times what a World War II B-17 could carry.
The A-10 carries its massive load of 16,000 pounds of mixed ordnance on 8 underwing and 3 under-fuselage pylon stations. These 11 hardpoints allow the A-10 to be armed according to the task at hand.
This right here is a ECM 184 pod. It's an electronic jamming device. This is a Mark 82. This right here is a cluster bomb.
The variety of armaments available to the Warthog is extensive, including AGM-114 Hellfire anti-tank missiles, Sidewinder missiles, and a selection of both smart and dumb bombs.
Although we carry dumb bombs or unguided bombs, we have a state-of-the-art delivery system. It's called CCIP, constantly computed impact point. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to deliver stupid bombs or dumb bombs with great precision.
But the typical combat loadout of the airplane then would include the 30-millimeter cannon and almost 1,200 rounds of 30-millimeter ammunition, plus 6 bombs, an assortment of Maverick missiles, the air-to-air missile, which we carry, the AIM-9 Sidewinder missile, which we carry for self-defense.
Armed to the teeth, few can challenge the firepower of the Warthog, and none can dispute its toughness.
The airplane, has often been said, and more often as a form of criticism rather than praise, that this is the only airplane that the Air Force ever bought that was designed to take hits, not avoid hits. And it's quite true. The airplane was designed to take hits and absorb damage and survive.
Every aspect of the Warthog can be traced to the simple concept that the airplane had to survive its grueling mission.
And the A-10 was designed with several thousand pounds of titanium steel surrounding critical flight components, one of which, of course, is the pilot. And this was an intentional design decision on the part of the designers, wherein they were willing to sacrifice fuel or ordnance load in favor of survivability.
Reinforced with nearly 3,000 pounds of titanium armor plating, the Warthog can survive direct hits from armor-piercing and high-explosive projectiles up to 23 millimeters. 1,200 pounds of the titanium surrounds the cockpit, enveloping the pilot in what is commonly referred to as a titanium bathtub. This bathtub of 1.5-inch armor gives Hawk pilots added security as they undertake their dangerous missions. One of the features that gives the Warthog its undeniably unique profile is the placement of its engines. The A-10 had to have 2 engines for survivability. Fortunately, during the early stages of development, the designers found out that GE was working on turbofan engines for a new Navy anti-submarine aircraft. Turbofans had made inroads into civilian aircraft, but had not been much use in the military sphere. These engines held several advantages, which made them an excellent choice for the A-10. They offered high fuel efficiency, and they were less noisy than turbojets, and had a lower heat signature. Once the designers chose the type of engine, another issue arose: where to put them. The area under the wing was reserved for the heavy ordnance load. Eventually, the area near the back of the fuselage proved the best location, and placing the engines there also offered a number of advantages. It negated a potential yaw problem, decreased the probability that foreign objects might be sucked into the engines, and removed the engines from the major flow of the exhaust from the gun. The forward fuselage and wings also shield the engines from ground fire in the frontal section, and the vertical fins and rudder guard the engine's heat signature from the side, alleviating some of the aircraft's vulnerability to heat-seeking missiles. The Warthog's toughness is compounded by a number of structural and system redundancies. The dual redundancy of the hydraulic flight control systems is also backed up by a manual system. This enables Hawk pilots to fly and land even if hydraulic power is lost. The Warthog's extraordinarily high mission capability rate during the Gulf War directly resulted from a design dedicated to ensuring the plane could be serviced and operated from bases with limited facilities, close to the battlefield. Many of the A-10's parts, including the engines, main landing gear, tails, and vertical stabilizers, are interchangeable left to right. Interchanging as well as cannibalizing parts between aircraft is a standard maintenance procedure, one used with much success during Desert Storm.
The shape of the airplane, the fact that it's battlefield repairable with very simple surfaces, was all built into the airplane because the designers realized this airplane's probably going to take a hit.
The mission of the Warthog is such that hits are inevitable, and there have been and will be instances when the pilot must abandon his hog to save himself.
I'm the life support superintendent here at the Maryland International Guard, and part of my job is to ensure that pilots can remain safe while flying, but also in case of an emergency they have to eject, that we supply them with survival gear to ensure their survivability on the ground. And part of that gear that we would pack in their kits is provided here on the board behind me on display. And a couple of those items, first, outside of a large kit, we have two small kits that are contained inside. And inside these small kits would be the items that we have shown on the wall. And let me point a couple of those out. Obviously, we have the mittens and socks, both of wool, used for wintertime warmth. Obviously not a problem now. We've got your knife, which is one of your basic utensils in survival. And we have a container to hold water. Water is one of your primary needs in a survival situation. And we do supply many packets of the flexible drinking water there with them. We do have food, but that is not as important as water. We also have, probably getting into the most regarding rescue, would be the flares, which we have the handheld launching flares. We have other flares here to direct rescue aircraft in to pick up that pilot. And as soon as that pilot would eject and hit the ground, his survival radio, very important to talk to other aircraft in the air to let them know what his situation is, and also to talk to rescue to direct them to his location. Part of the A-10's mission is to fly low to the ground to give close air support to the troops there. So naturally, this is going to put them in harm's way and leave them open to gunfire, missiles, and so forth. So the A-10 pilot probably finds himself in more jeopardy than the fast flyers flying at much higher altitudes. It's important that these items be there. Now, it's something that a part of our training, or a lot of our time is spent in training the pilot for something he may never need. However, should he need it, he needs to know that it is there and it will work, and fortunately could save his life.
You know, we got the latest and greatest equipment that we can have out there, and it's constantly being upgraded. They're saying that we'll probably have it till 2025, so it's around for a while. Most of ours are 78, 79 version models out here, and so that's a pretty good long time for an airplane to be in service, and it's constantly being modified, and it's got a lot of capability.
The Air Force's plan to keep the A-10 as an important member of the American arsenal comes as a vindication for hog pilots, who never doubted the airplane's ability, but had good cause to doubt if anyone else shared their feelings. Unproven in battle, much of the Air Force brass did not think of the Warthog as an integral part of the post-Cold War strategy, until the winds of war swept across the deserts of Kuwait.
You know, the mission changed a few years ago. Before, we were looking at a high-threat scenario in Eastern Europe. And then with the change in the political climate, all that changed, and now we're looking at conflicts like Bosnia and Iraq, where the mission is different, and this airplane is well-suited for both those missions in Iraq and Bosnia.
Many doubted whether the Warthog could adapt to the new missions of the post-Cold War era. But the Warthog rose to the challenge, and during the Gulf War, served brilliantly in a variety of roles. Despite only flying 30% of the sorties, the A-10 was responsible for more than 50% of the confirmed bomb damage, and only 6 airplanes and 2 pilots were lost, a remarkable rate considering the danger of the missions. Given the heavy use of the airplane, it did not take long for the Iraqis to become all too familiar with the Warthog.
There was a quote from one captured Iraqi who said that it was the most feared airplane. I think largely because we spent a lot of time over the troops, over the Army. You know, where some of the other airplanes were attacking strategic targets, buildings and bridges, maybe the troops didn't have as much exposure to those airplanes, but they saw the A-10, and they were never quite sure what target we were going to choose. So, you know, there's some concern on their parts, being down below, not knowing
we had
when and where it's coming.
We we had 144 airplanes stationed over there, and it was 24 operations. We had 2 night squadrons and 5 squadrons on the day schedule, and we just totally saturated the air with A-10s, 25 miles deep. So that's all they saw continuously. And if you could imagine sitting on the ground wondering if you're the next target, it was a big psychological game that was.
And listening to the gun makes it a real, I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it makes a great roar. And it echoes, and you can hear it for quite a way. And having to listen to that hour after hour, day after day, I'm sure it took its toll on them. Since the Gulf, the major change to the A-10 has been night vision goggles. They've redone all of our instrument panels and consoles to make it night vision compatible. So now pretty much we do everything we did in the Gulf at day at night now, which is pretty much double the capabilities of the airplane.
With the A-10's role in the Air Force cemented well into the 21st century, the Air Force and the Air National Guard will continue to keep the Warthog combat ready, demonstrating a successful adaptation by the military in a changing era. Units such as the 175th Fighter Group must remain ready to take the Warthog wherever it may be needed, and must be ready to serve side by side with the active duty units. So far, they have done so without exception.
We have, in recent months, undertaken the same tasking that our active duty squadrons have undertaken. We have been to the European theater to support the operation in Bosnia, over Bosnia. And we had Guard units deployed to the Persian Gulf and performed admirably. I mean, there was little to no difference between, I must brag to some extent, there was no difference between their performance and the performance of the active duty units there.
Once deemed too slow, too simple, and too ugly to be of much value, the A-10 Thunderbolt II, the Warthog, now stands as one of the world's undeniable great planes. Its outstanding maneuverability, deadly firepower, and legendary toughness are testaments to a successful design concept. The pride and affection felt by Hog pilots and crewmen for their airplane, unrivaled. For these soldiers, it was merely a matter of time before the world recognized the greatness of the extraordinary airplane with the unforgettable name, the Warthog.
It starts out as something that you've trained for all your life, trying to make a difference. The cool thing is, as an A-10 pilot, on times when the stars align and you're up on that mission where you get to make a difference, you get to see the reward.
It's a pretty easy answer to in terms of why are we here.
Number one priority is always saving guys on the ground.
The people that we so closely work with, the guy on the ground.
That's my whole soul and being, is that guy on the ground. You know, he could be an 18-year-old guy, 18-year-old kid with a rifle. That's all he's got, and I'm here to protect him.
Sanitized dog tags, ID card, left breast pocket, unique kit, watch tape, smart package, flight guide, maps, BTs, RMMs. Let's see, vibrator pedal packs, water, snacks, seat cushion if you guys want to take that. Cell phone, we got one. You have yours, okay? Signed up. Yep.
One random Friday, spring of '03, so right after the Iraqi invasion, 3 guys in flight suits walked into the bar on campus and started talking about flying. And I was a year away from graduating, not really knowing what I wanted to do in life. And then this guy started talking about flying fighters and being a fighter pilot, being in the Air Force, and how awesome it was. And it kind of hit a nerve with me, if you will.
Good jet. All right, Captain. What's up?
How I got interested in the A-10, I can still remember it to this day. I was at a hobby store because I, like a lot of kids interested in aviation, I built a lot of airplane models. And this was 1979. I was in high school and went to the hobby store, and they had a Revell model of the for then brand new A-10. It had only been operational for a couple of years at that point. And I just saw it, and I can still remember to this day looking at the wall of models and just trying to pick what I was going to build next. And I saw the box and the picture, and I was like, what in the world is that?
During about the last month of pilot training is where you put in for what airplanes you want to fly. And I was torn on the F-15E or the A-10, on which one I wanted to put number one on my list, you know. So luckily, one of the respected IPs in our flight had flown both the A-10 and the F-15E. And all he said to me was, Mitchell, what patch do I wear on my shoulder on Fridays? And the patch he always had on was the A-10. So I ended up putting the A-10 as number one, and I loved the mission, the thought of the mission at the time, and now looking back on it, I clearly made the best choice in my life on picking to go to the A-10, and then of course I was blessed and fortunate to get picked up by the Air Force to go fly the A-10. So that's how I am right here.
I was a first lieutenant. I was 26 years old when Desert Storm kicked off.
The 26-year-old fighter pilot caught the nation's attention a few months ago when he and a partner shot down a record number of Iraqi tanks.
You just never forget when you look down and realize that somebody's trying to shoot you down, and you've got to kill him first.
My first full 2 years in the Air Force, it was pretty much a completely Cold War type of mentality. Our training was all very low altitude. It doesn't seem that long ago to me, but I know talking to a lot of the guys now, you know, it's been quite a while ago, and when you look at the airplane from then to now, it's pretty amazing the different upgrades and that we've gone through since then.
The A-10 is the only airframe ever that was built entirely for this mission.
Yo, come on, man. They're about to do a gun run. You need to get down. Let's go, buddy. Come on, man. 10 saving the day again, baby.
There's just nothing that matches the devastation that gun can bring.
640 clear hot. 30 mil inbound!
It's an awesome testament to the aircraft, I think, that the same gun that we used to kill main battle tanks in 1991 is the same gun where we can shoot a single insurgent that's fleeing on a motorcycle or shooting at our guys from a tree line.
Point is, you know, the A-10 was built for ground combat, okay? Ground combat we had the old linear battlefield type where we're gonna go fight a bunch of tanks going low at 100 feet, and then we've morphed into a medium altitude precision strike platform because the airplane has been updated and modified to be able to do that. Sensors are great, they're amazing, they enable precision strike, they enable us to generate coordinates that are pristine, that are right on the target, but that will never replace just, you know, looking right outside of my cockpit and looking at the battle space. What am I seeing out there, big picture?
We do have this personal connection with the people that we so closely work with, the guy on the ground. We hear him getting scared.
Request immediate re-attack, same remarks, same restrictions, from last hit, north 75 meters.
We hear him getting excited.
Here we go, that's it. Good hit, good hit, good hit. Dash 2, I need you in the same remarks, same restrictions.
We hear the bullets flying. We hear him taking cover. We hear him breathing hard. And it becomes a very personal mission, especially when you start hearing about guys taking casualties down there. You take that hits very, very close to home. Nobody ever wants to hear that.
We care about guys on the ground. We do our mission in relationship to guys on the ground. We are support element essentially for the Army. We care about the guy on the ground. I'm not saying air interdiction mission isn't caring about the guy on the ground, but it's not tangible. You can't really grab the benefits of it right then. You're gonna wait a certain amount of time to see its effects. Air to air, how's that about the guy on the ground? Well, you're building air superiority, air supremacy, correct. But is the guy on the ground gonna see it, get the tangible benefits of it? No. Close air support is about the guy on the ground. Combat search and rescue is about the guy on the ground. We're joint. We're a joint airframe and an air force, and that's what makes us different.
Okay, today we're going down to Sen-Toku. We've been there recently, so we've got a good lay of the land. Keep in mind, the Spondy's been pretty hot recently, and they've had some contact from the same area around Sen-Toku. He went over the recent activity. Keep in mind the kind of MO we've had recently out of there. They've seen the Taliban commander kind of looking at the objective first, doing a quick meeting, picking up weapons en route. Usually there's motorcycles involved. You've also got the Taliban commander that they seeked a couple weeks ago. So you've got all that stuff going on right there in Spondy. We're going right into the heat of that. So keep that in mind as we get down there. Keep your eyes open and stay vigilant. All right, so our actions on contact, near and far ambush, return fire. Look to me, we'll either maneuver or we'll push through. IED, get 360-degree security and clear the danger area, and then we'll look to Kazovac. In the case of a complex attack, we're gonna return fire, move out of the kill zone. Indirect fire, get down, look for distance and direction from me. Our actions on halt, take a knee, face out, and the march intervals that we're gonna use are gonna be dependent on where we are. In the open area, spread out as much as you can. The bigger we can look and the more intimidating we can look, the less likely we're gonna take contact as we move down there. That's all I've got. What are your questions?
All right, we're kidding up. 0615. 0615, kids on.
Yesterday, as most days, we went out on a dismounted patrol south of our fob to a village of Espandi. Basically, we got some intel that some bad guys were storing weapons in a building, and we had contacted them before. We'd run into them before. So we went down there to kind of check back up. And as we got down into the village, we ran into some sketchy guys.
Everything felt weird from the time we got down there. There was high tension. You could tell by the ANA's body language. He was antsy, pacing back and forth. Second that happened, we spread out, let the PL do his link up. It was just high tension. I felt from the get-go.
Hey, let's go. Go push.
نفر که با میز اون نفر اگه سرشتی پیدا
He said everybody is teachers here, so we are good people.
Okay, if they're good people, they have nothing to worry about. We're not
Yeah,
going to
cool.
Just a lot of sketchy reports. No one had the same story. They were all family. They all lived in the same compound, but no one's story matched up.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to detain them. So as we started to RTB to head back to the base, we got word that the Taliban were maneuvering on us from the south.
Again, Commander 92A, be advised right now we're picking up and moving back through Espandi towards Ghazni. Mutant energy, go. And Hog, if I could get you overhead of our lead element through Espandi, if at all possible.
As we were headed back to the base, we had to cross about 2 kilometers of open desert.
We were definitely in a huge open danger area.
We got about 500 meters outside of the village and started taking some pretty accurate fire.
That white building! 2427, send it. L3, come on, fucking hang it! Hang it! Hang it! I hanged it. Alright, shoot it! Go ahead and fire! Shoot it!
There was no cover. I mean, there were people trying to find tire tracks to hide, to get a little bit of a defilade behind. You know, in that position, the best you can do is spread out, gain fire superiority, you know, and then wait for some air support. Our comms were a bit of an issue at the time, and so they had a little bit of a struggle, but they did have A-10s luckily being pushed down to us.
I have your position south of the tree line.
We quickly responded, and working with the JFO on the ground and one of my JTACs, were able to get Hog on station quite quickly.
We were taking some harassing fire at that point.
Right here. Hey man, I know you're busy, but I need full security, brother. Who's shooting? Somebody's fucking shooting at us still.
But luckily we had the A-10s on station to come in and do a nice show of force, which is always a clincher for the enemy because they know what that entails.
The A-10 has proven itself time and again as being really a nightmare to the enemy. Just its mere presence alone is enough to keep the enemy at bay. And in that situation right there, again, just bringing those guys in quick and fast was enough to push the enemy away from our forces.
The ground troops that I work with, when they think close air support, they think A-10s. And I think the reason for that is they almost share the same mentality. If you were to say that there's a grunt in the sky, it'd be a Hog pilot.
They're very user-friendly. I mean, any one of these dudes could pick up the radio if I get shot in the face and, you know, employ. Those guys are really professional, very well trained, and if, you know, you have a random Joe who doesn't know what to do, those guys can pull it from them.
To win a war, you need boots on the ground, and to have boots on the ground, you need support. And you need the right kind of support to have boots on the ground, and it's the A-10, honestly. Even sometimes just a sound, or just telling the ground commander, hey, A-10's on its way, or we have aircraft supporting the Wing 5 mics, and you ask what it is, you say, hey, we got an A-10 coming on. Yeah, it picks them up a little bit.
That sound is so distinguishable. Literally shakes the ground. It is amazing. You hear it first when it fires, and then you hear it echo from the gun in the sky. That sound right there just drives 11 Bravos nuts. It's amazing.
Hey, thanks, sir. I just shit my pants.
It's that sound of it's corny like freedom, but it really is. It's the sound of don't mess with me. It scares off everyone and shows you're in good hands.
I think when people 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road look back on it, I think people will look at this airframe and it will always be known as an airframe that was, some people view it as ugly. Who'd want to fly that thing? But you know what? It was an airframe that got the job done. It got bombs on target when it mattered most, and guys went home to their wives and kids because of the airframe.
It makes it, it's very humbling. It's that we are so trusted and liked by the ground forces. I think that's something that I'm very, very proud of. They love this airplane, and they trust us is the biggest thing. I mean, when you're shooting last night, we just looked at it, it was between 65 and 100 meters away from the friendly guys, and for those guys to trust us to do that on a regular basis is very gratifying.
I got the greatest job in the world, man. I get to fly fighters when people need me to do my job. I have the chance to save lives and make a difference on the battlefield. That is when you hear the machine guns going off in the background, when JTAC's screaming, the bullets are hitting at his feet. You can hear the bullets pinging off the Humvee that he's hiding behind. And then all of a sudden you roll in, put some rounds down and take care of his problem for him. And then, you can hear the relief in his voice. That is the most rewarding and fulfilling thing that I can think of.
You've got a huge group of experts at what they do with a singular focus. And you can't really get that back once it's broken out.